And I am welcoming on stage Daniel López Montero, data scientist at GMV. It is time for us now to discuss, please welcome him warmly. It is now time for us to discuss intelligent automated pen testing of space operational assets. Daniel, you're a mathematician by training and you are at GMV since 2021, if I'm correct.
Yes, correct.
You focus on machine learning, reinforcement learning, and optimization problems. Shall we present GMV? It has offices in 12 countries, clients in 80 countries, big player on this market, and also our sponsor on this event. I am letting you presenting the devices here, and we'll be back for questions.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. I hope I don't say a lot of technical stuff because I will be talking a lot about machine learning in this presentation. So what are we talking about in this presentation? Is about intelligence automated pen testing for space operational assets. So this will be the index of this presentation. Firstly, I want to introduce the current state for artificial intelligence. I hope everyone knows and are aware of the current state and even some news. Then I will introduce the intersection between artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. Then I will talk about some recent project that we developed with ESA called INFAS, Intelligence Functional Security Testing. And now we are currently developing a tool called PenBot for intelligence automated pen testing. Finally, I will share some of the lessons that we have learned during these years, and also some conclusions and further prospects of the field. So we have seen the past few years an unprecedented growth in this field. We have seen a lot of applications, even news, and I suppose everyone here has used or are using on a daily basis some of these tools such as ChatGPT or even GPT-4. Also, I've seen in previous talks that almost everyone has mentioned the future prospects of this field, and even some of our competitors that are currently in this conference. So, as you can see, there are some many fields where we are currently applying artificial intelligence, such as self-driving cars, protein folding, natural language processing, diffusion models, even in healthcare. This has been possible due to the hardness of parallel computation, such as, and especially the use of GPUs. But the common field of this field is the use of vast amounts of data that has been possible due to this digitalization and also the growth of the IT market. This growth of the IT market has created new technologies and assets, and in most cases, these technologies are built upon many layers of technology, and in many cases, these technologies remain untested or even are untrustworthy. So the field of cybersecurity requires more than ever a highly specialized skilled force of workers in cybersecurity, and due to the increase of complexity of this field. Additionally, the emergence of this machine learning software has introduced new categories of vulnerabilities. As you can see in the right, these are the recently added to WAS's top 10 machine learning cybersecurity risks. And so we conclude that testing every piece of software nowadays, it's prohibitively expensive, and there aren't that many alternatives, as we'll see in the next slide. So what are the challenges of automating cybersecurity nowadays? First, as we can see, in the past few years, cybersecurity has remained almost impenetrable by the automation tools or even AI. The main problem of this is the lack of data, especially quality data from public or private data sources. What are the reasons for this? Is that cybersecurity also has always remained a hermetic field. That means that there is no clear incentive in sharing data between different sources, and also there are some data privacy concerns and regulatory hurdles. So nowadays, information is being recognized as a valuable asset and companies don't want to share it. There are other reasons that are not that important, but they are worth mentioning. For example, reproducibility and trustworthiness. That means that AI models almost always feels like a black box. You input something, you get something, and it's like magic. You don't know exactly what is the decision-making process behind these complex decisions. Also, as you know, cybersecurity has always remained a very complex field, and there is a lot of subparts in this process that are not feasible to be automated in these few years. Also, there are some ethical concerns relating whether we should open source some of these defensive and attacking tooling. However, as we can see in this slide, there has been a lot of initiatives and projects in the past few years where people are starting to use these technologies. Some of the ones are in the right. I won't delve much into this, but as you can see, there are some data sets, some vulnerability matching, some progress in the reproducibility of offensive tooling. And, and as you can see in the lower graph, there is an increased interest in the research of cybersecurity, and especially we will be focusing in the intersection between cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. That, as you can see, there has been an exponential growth, although this plot is a little bit outdated. It dates back to 2019. The trend continues as these days passes. So, some of the tools that are already using artificial intelligence in the cybersecurity domain are these ones. They are mostly focusing in identifying, protecting, detecting, and responding and recovering. I won't delve much into this one also because these are our competitors. So what are the current approaches of machine learning to cybersecurity? The most important ones are related to supervised learning. That is the most important branch in machine learning nowadays. However, as I have said before, this is a very small niche or specific use case because there is a lack of data, especially labeled and curated data, so you cannot use it a lot. However, there are some applications that are small niches like malware detection, phishing detection, and intrusion detection. So we have to come with some alternatives to circumvent this problem. For example, unsupervised learning that has been widely used recently for anomaly detection, adversarial ML, and clustering. But the ones that we are focusing now will be reinforcement learning that we think that has the most potential in this field because you do not rely on data at all. And also with the use of a simulation environment, you are able to train an agent by itself. So what is reinforcement learning for the ones that doesn't know here? A quick intro. It is very similar to the way human learns. You have an agent, performs an action. This action triggers a response in the environment, and you get a reward and an observation. This reward is used by the algorithm to train itself and fine-tune so that you can do more likely the actions that are more likely to be highly positive and don't do the actions that are negative. It's mostly what reinforcement learning do. So what are the main achievements of this field? I am sure you have seen AlphaZero, or at least you have heard some news of this. AlphaZero was able to outperform some grandmasters chess players a few years ago. There are also applications in autonomous driving, fine-tuning large language models. For example, ChatGPT or GPT-4 also uses reinforcement learning to make the model better and fit the responses better. So what are the pros of using reinforcement learning, and why do you think we think this is the future? First, it is self-taught. That means that you don't need expert supervision at all, and that is very costly in this field. Also, it can optimize long-term rewards, and that is essential in this field in cybersecurity, the planning of future actions. But there are some drawbacks that we have to take into account. For example, it is very sample inefficient. That means that you have to iterate a lot, do a lot of episodes, and it is very computationally expensive to do that. And when you are dealing with a simulation environment, it is very difficult to transfer the agent that you have trained in the simulation environment to the real world. And because the simulation has always some inaccuracies, some biases, and almost always the simulation is a simplification of the real world. So now I will be introducing a recent project that we did with ISA, INFAS, Intelligence Functional Security Testing. This project was related to the automatization of security testing processes to reduce the cost and time of complex systems at ISOC. During the project, we developed the proof of concept of use cases. First one, the root cause analysis for functional testing, and the second one, the action selection for automation pentesting. In this PPT, we will be focusing only on the second one that is related to this one. So, what we are trying to do in this use case is to build an automating pen tester, an AI tool that is able to perform pen testing automatically, and that means to exploit some vulnerabilities using some exploits and scans, and to train this AI model using data from private and public data sources. How were we able to do that? We use a tool that was developed by ISA, and this tool is used for pen testing. However, it requires some human feedback and human intervention, and our goal was to automate this tool to plan the attack scenarios and the actions of these ones. So, what was our approach? Our approach was obviously based on reinforcement learning. We built a simulation environment or a network topology. We train the reinforcement learning on this simulation environment, and then we integrate our agent in a real scenario, on a real environment, and let it perform. The most important part in this project was related to the generation of this simulation environment. We use Cyber Battle Sim, that is a tool developed by Microsoft for simulating these topologies. We used data from GMB and ISA to make it as realistic as possible and avoid or mitigate the problem with the simulation to the real environment. And finally, we were able to converge both in the training and in the testing set. I don't know if you will be able to interpret these graphs, but we were able to achieve high rewards both in the training and in the testing. It was able to generalize, and in a real environment that we developed, it was able to gather information and exploit some vulnerabilities. And some things that I want to address that we address in this project was related to the explainability of artificial intelligence. That as I have mentioned before, it is very important to increase the trustworthiness in these AI tools. So for the ones that doesn't know, explainable AI is related to getting explanations or interpretable answers to the actions that the model is already performing. So fast forward to these days, after a year of ending this project, we are now committed to the development of this field. We have started a new project called PenBot. PenBot its goal is to the cybersecurity testing of space and non-space assets. It's partially funded by INCIBE, Spanish National Cybersecurity Agency, and it is very heavily inspired by INFAS, the INFAS project that I have mentioned before. What are the four main aspects of these projects? And the functionalities are related to the information gathering and reconnaissance, vulnerability assessment and scanning, and exploitation and reporting. Some of the key functionalities of this tool that we are already developing is to use reinforcement learning to automate the pen testing process as we have mentioned before. These agents should be able to adapt to ever-changing environments, to new threats, and generalize to the hidden patterns and be able to uncover these vulnerabilities. However, the main problem with these high expectations that we have is that already pen testing cannot be fully automated. Our goal is to only automate simple and repetitive tasks that and enhance the power of the pen testing experts. So, what are some of the conclusions of these projects and some of the future prospects of this field? Firstly, we think there is a huge potential in the development of space and non-space assets. We have seen in this conference that there are already some companies working on this. We can reduce the cost and accelerate product development without investing that much money in this heavily tested and skilled force use. We can also reduce human error, that it is very common, especially when there is a restricted time. But also there remains a lot of challenges in this field that we have to address. For example, the problem with data quality and quantity. Almost always this data is biased and has some problems. There are also a lot of problems with the high rate of false positives or negatives that these algorithms perform. And there is also a problem with adversarial attacks, because machine learning tools almost always are prone to be vulnerable to other machine learning attacks. That is the field of machine adversarial ML. And some problems with model explainability that I have talked before in the explainable AI. Also, there is a problem with the goal definition and selection of these agents, because when you are dealing with different threats, different goals in red team, in bug bounty, etc., you have to address, you have to say the agent what is the main goal of these exploitations, and what is the path that it has to follow so that it can uncover these vulnerabilities. So that would be all. Thank you very much for coming. I would like to thank my colleagues at TMB for making, and also the conference and everyone that made possible this conference. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel. I invite you to have a seat on the blue sofa. You'll be at the very center of the stage. Thank you for this presentation. Before going to the audience question, we have a few questions from the audience. Part of the risks inherent to AI for pen testing is, well, it's also the risks of AI in general, such as uncontrolled AI development, escalation of cyber threats, polymorphic malware. What do you think about it?
About polymorphic, well, I think there is a lot of hype nowadays in AI. We have to be certain that AI will not automate any of these activities at all. There are a lot of people that are advocating to pursue these goals, but I think that we have to remain calm and see what are the real scenarios where AI can be applied, and don't panic at all.
Yeah, that was part of Nicholas Schurkogel advices as well. Another question that echoes that of Marek Matuzak. He says, do you think AI will eventually replace human pen testers? And that echoes a bit of a question I had, because at some point in your intervention, you said, unfortunately, this cannot be fully automated. Yeah, but wouldn't it be better to build a comprehensive approach where human and AI work hand in hand to reduce each other's likeness?
Yeah, that's exactly the goal we are pursuing now. We think nowadays pen testing cannot be automated. It is impossible. In a few years you will see, but for now it's not possible. AI is very limited, and I think the goal should be for everyone to follow this very synergetic path, so that humans and machines can be more productive, can behave better together, can work better, and are more productive. That.
Thank you. Another question from Brendan Bailey. How would you automate pen testing in your tool against a spacecraft when every spacecraft seems so different? What types of techniques, TTPs, does your system automate?
That's a good question. I have to say that I'm not very knowledgeable of the space domain, but I'm sure some of my colleagues can answer to this very specific question.
Brendan, come at the booth.
No, if not, you can ask in our tent. So later we can talk about this.
Sure. Another question from Emil Reichev. He asks, how effective is the automated pen testing tool when put up against black box as opposed to a white box?
It is very different. So now we are focusing only on the black box methods, but it is obvious that white box is a lot of easier, but it relies also on the human part. We are trying to distance ourselves from this functionality, but we will try to do both in the future.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't want to bother you too much about space-specific technologies. It's been part of what we've been saying here so far and hearing from our speakers that space is implementing non-tailored technologies. We have different questions related to this. One is from François-Marie Le Saffre. He asks, Danielle, an address. To what extent your InFast or PenBit project is specific to space? How to apply elsewhere? Shall we redo it completely? How transferring to another field?
I think everything in machine learning can be transferred to many fields. I think it's very intersectional. You can apply it almost to every field. The methods are the same. It's very universal. So if you understand the basics, you know how to apply to different fields. There shouldn't be a problem, at least in the basic level. Then if there are some technicalities where you have to define it better, but I think there shouldn't be a problem where applying to other fields should matter at all.
Mm-hmm. Do not hesitate to raise question on the Connects Me app. We still have a bit more time. This is also about what you just said during your presentation, that cybersecurity is a very hermetic field. Yeah. What do you think are the tools we can use to break frontiers? To break frontiers, to break this field, the silos.
I think there should be a community effort to break this problem. We have to build synergies such as the ones that we are building now in this conference. And we need to collaborate between different communities, companies, and governments even, so that we can progress the development of this field.
Thank you. Another question from Tom Leclerc. What differences did you see from the strategies employed by your AI versus the automated scenario that were already implemented in Penbox?
There aren't that much differences, but obviously I cannot say there is a lot of confidentialities here. So, but yes, there aren't much differences. We didn't have that much of a problem, so I don't think I can say more.
Yeah, do not disclose any confidential information. Hugues Favin-Levesque is asking for clarification. Is INSAF a project or a product, and how is it licensed?
InFast. InFast was a project, but the tool that we are developing that is called PenBot is a product. You can already buy it if you are interested. And I'm not sure about the license part, but you can talk to us.
Legal team.
Yeah.
Tule Aiden is wondering, how might reinforcement learning be advantageous over supervised and unsupervised learning for simulating and defending against cyber attacks?
It depends really on your goal. Maybe in your specific goal, supervised or unsupervised learning is better, but for our use case, we think reinforcement learning is the way to go. The alternative is very difficult to see. There is no clear path how to proceed. So, but also as I have said before, there are some drawbacks of these approaches. You have to keep in mind what are the pros and cons of each approach and proceed as you like.
Okay. No more questions from the audience. We still have a bit of time before it's noon and we move to our other conference. We've been oh yeah, François-Marie Le Savre. Okay. My question of transfer was a transfer learning question. You learned a model in PenBot. To what extent the model learned is applicable in other fields? How do we circulate knowledge?
I think if the agent is able to generalize, the transfer of information shouldn't be that difficult. That's the goal, actually. If you are able to generalize to different scenarios, different views, different environments, you will be able to use the same agent and fine tune or modify it slightly so that it can perform in different interfaces. So there shouldn't be any problem.
Thank you. Last question. We've been talking about trustworthiness, in AI tools. Nicholas Rukogel also talked about how difficult it was to convince people and frame it as business-oriented. I know you're a mathematical engineer, but what do you think are the drivers for raising this trust in AI tools?
Oof. That's a difficult one.
Well, you're the one who knows it the best, so, I mean, what would you say?
I'm not very good at convincing people, but yes, we need to share this information in a very simplex way so that other stakeholders, even if they don't understand very good what you are doing, you have to transmit those ideas and in a very how do you say?
Easy to understand?
Yes, easy to understand. So that even if they don't understand the field, you should transmit and make I don't think
pedagogy is the key.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a problem because almost always when you transmit the outcomes, the conclusions of some project they don't understand, you have to make metaphors. You have to explain it with using other concepts, and sometimes they hear you, and sometimes they don't.
They do. I did when you were presenting.
I wish.
I said last question, but we have a very last one from Benjamin Deporte. He says, RL models usually don't scale well beyond toy cases in cyber. How did you overcome this?
That's a good question. Yes. Yes, there's a problem with reinforcement learning. That's one of the main problems in reinforcement learning. We have that problem also in our case. There are some ways of dealing with to tackle this problem, but I think the field should progress a lot more to scale to do more scaling. But currently, this one is one of the biggest problems with reinforcement learning, and there is no clear way. You have to go in a specific
scenario
to see how do you tackle with this problem.
Thank you very much, Daniel. There was Peter Frank who asks a question, but I hope you've got your answer in what Daniel says about François-Marie Le Saffre question earlier. Thank you very much, Daniel. We can give you a warm round of applause.